Elena Iacono, and I live in Toronto in Canada. Originally from Ottawa, the capital, and I moved to Toronto to pursue my master's in communications. So as a result, I like to consider myself as a communications champion. I work in leadership communications, and I have a passion for helping others build relationships with their employees and their team members. The broader interest started when I was applying for university undergraduate degrees, and I had this idea of building relationships and bringing people together. And I pursued my undergraduate degree in communications because I felt the need to help others connect. And from there, over the years, it has kind of spawned off into a career in internal communications. And I absolutely love it because I'm behind the scenes helping people craft messages which ultimately drive relationships. And that's why I love communications so much. I think it first came from the idea of speaking with clarity and influencing people's decisions. And you might laugh, but when I was probably 6 or 7, I collected all of my cousins in the basement of my grandparents' house in Montreal, and we would pretend to be announcers because we were fascinated with the idea of sharing messages. It just sparked my curiosity to write something that was so tight and crisp and having others listen to me, and it was really fun. I was stuck in a job, and I'm not going to say I was stuck in a job. I chose to stay in a job that I knew was just sucking the life out of me. And it was close to 5 years where I was stuck in an environment and a culture where, there was immense backstabbing, and I was naive. I was new in my career, so I thought this was the norm. And, leaders were throwing people under the bus, and I was being told that I wasn't good enough for certain things. But I refused to quit. And it was a tough decision because, I would go home and just feel so terrible knowing that I was giving it my all. I refused to quit because I wanted to continue growing. I just didn't want to give up on the challenge. And as a result, it wasn't a negative experience. I think it was a growing experience. And so now, taking that and stepping forward, when I'm faced with tough decisions, I think, okay, how can I continue to plow through this? Is it the right thing to do to let go? Should I? And it's giving me a chance to deliberate. I'm very grateful that I had to go through this tough circumstance because it allowed me to develop critical thinking skills on yes, no, do I jump ship or not? And I'm grateful for that time. It was intolerable, but at the end of the day, I learned some valuable lessons that I know will stay with me for the rest of my life. How can I make my mark in a difficult environment? And refusing to let go of my principles and my values. And that's something that I never wavered on, despite the fact that it was such a tough situation. And learned to appreciate those small moments of connections where you could be vulnerable and you could speak up. And why can't it always be like that? And so that's what really solidified my interest in creating those types of more positive environments. I think what I'm trying to achieve working in communications is cultivating workplace cultures or places of work cultures where people come to work, they're able to connect with their leaders, with each other. All the tools are in place, models, templates. People just need to speak with confidence. And at the end of the day, that's what drives business results. And I like to be behind the scenes because it's not about me, it's about me guiding people to having better connections. And I would be feeling and seeing an environment where people felt comfortable, where they felt that they could come to the table and speak without fear of judgment, and that communications is a driver to relationships that are built on trust and respect. And I've always struggled with that notion. I worked in a culture at one point in my career where, we were fearful and we couldn't come to the table and explain and bring creative ideas. And I refuse to ever be in that point again. And I want people to come to work. They know that it's okay to put their hand up and dialogues can just happen. And we don't need scheduled meetings, and we can just congregate around a water cooler literally and connect. And that's how I'd like to change. And I want to foster a culture of inclusivity. Once that stale negative air is lifted, when people feel that they can connect without judgment, confidence levels just boost right up. And I've seen it happen over the years. And when you've got a culture and an environment where anything can be said without fear of judgment, I think so much can be accomplished in change. Yeah, I've personally seen it over and over, and that's where I want to help continue drive organizational change and culture. It's become less tactical and it's becoming more strategic. When we're having end of year team surveys, we're seeing that results. I'm reading case studies where people feel that their leaders are doing better jobs communicating and connecting and sharing information. And that's because those leaders in question throughout organizations all over North America and the world are prioritizing those communication conversations. And so I think that it's becoming more strategic and it's a bottom line enabler, because when you are able to exchange information, when leaders are being more visible with their people, people want to go that extra mile. And it's just all about planning it out, being deliberate, and being consistent. And we're gathering genius minds, amazing, brilliant talent, and we're pooling it all together in one consistent spot, one very tightly packaged group of information for people, and I'm a part of it, and it's so amazing because now we're changing how we're thinking about leadership, amazing places of work, and it's such an honor to be a part of it. And I believe in the shift for one reason: Gen Y. And they're starting to raise the profile on the need to change organizational landscapes. Leadership principles of dictating will never really go away, but it's less about telling and it's more about discussing. And I think everything HRockstars Tribe is trying to achieve will come into fruition, and it's because there's new workplace team members, there's new dynamics, and employees and people want to be treated like people. And I think the work that we're doing in the tribe will translate incredible value for workplaces. Always going to be challenges because people are scared of change. And so whether or not we want to change as individuals or collectively, it takes a lot of momentum and it takes a lot of support. And so challenges that I face in communication is allowing people to open up and really be vulnerable and be true and authentic. And that takes a lot of courage because you don't want to show that you could potentially be weak. And so it's challenging, but I'm optimistic that we'll get there. And I think the work that we're doing in HRockstars Tribe, the work that I'm doing, I'm talking about, it's about guiding people and coaching people to be comfortable, and it's okay. If you put the bars down, you'll just be a better human being, and I think we'll get there. I have a coach right now, and she always tells me to have greater courage from a managerial perspective, and that's about being courageous to say no, or I don't know, or I have to put my hand up, and it's okay. I'm learning that it is okay to be vulnerable, and so I'm developing the skill to be more courageous. And when I deal and I speak with next gen talent, I try to tell them that it's also okay. And so that's where I'm really happy I can help new leaders, and then explaining to them what it means to be courageous, and you're gonna be fine. I've become a lot more curious, and how can we change the game, and how can I change my own game, and what is it that I'm not doing, and why, and how can I evolve? And absorbing everything that I can and being part of, for example, the HRockstars Tribe, I'm pushing myself to explore new boundaries. And that's what I've mandated myself to do for the rest of this year, is just keep stepping outside of my comfort zone. And I think it's paying off because I'm changing my thinking and I'm helping others. And I think that's at the core of leadership, regardless of what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Wow.